Scorpion and Sub-Zero are brothers. Kenshi is a Yakuza. Old school Mortal Kombat fatalities are being brought back as updated versions of themselves, alongside the classic outfits. Raiden is now an Earthrealmer with a new face, Smoke is back, and there's quite a few interesting guest characters appearing in this new era. I think it goes without saying that this is going to be one of the best Mortal Kombat games coming out so far. Alright, so boom. This new universe is already looking to be quite the interesting narrative. They've taken a lot of things from the older games and revamped them and are now taking these elements in different directions. Initially, I thought they were going to just retell the original Mortal Kombat story, but with this time having Liu Kang be in Raiden's role, but you know, it was essentially the same story. Boy, was I glad I was wrong. They doing something way unexpected, and they're telling a story that we just think we're familiar with. See, the Mortal Kombat universe has been rebooted twice already, and this would be its third iteration. There was the original universe, or timeline, or whichever you want to call it, that ended with Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Then there was the reboot universe that started with MK9 and then ended with MK11. Now we're in this iteration of Mortal Kombat known as the New Era. Now the original universe, aka the 2D/3D era, was packed to the brim with a bunch of lore, but at the same time it was a little bit incredibly all over the place at certain times. You know, certain storylines contradicted others, you know, character endings came off as either nonsensical or just flat out confusing. You know, storylines in both past and future games made it difficult to tell what actually went down. You know, also things like how much time had took place between events, or even worse, it led to discussions about which events were actually canon and what weren't, or even which characters were dead and which characters were actually still alive. Now the reboot universe, or the NetherRealm era, was more of a way to wipe the slate clean and start from square one and make a more cohesive story this time. And of course, it worked. I'd even go as far as to say it actually helped to breathe some new life into Mortal Kombat, cause if you've been a fan of the series for as long as I have, then you also probably thought that Armageddon was it. Like that was gonna be the last game that they would ever make. I mean, yeah, that was Mortal Kombat versus DC, but in my opinion, that was kind of a letdown, especially considering the fact that they PG-13 the hell out of the characters. I guess the higher-ups didn't want DC characters getting hit with the same brutality that normally happens in Mortal Kombat. Maybe don't put superheroes in a Mortal Kombat game then. Anyway, now we get to the new era, where there's familiarity, but it's also unfamiliar. For example, Scorpion and Sub-Zero being brothers. Now, it's stated that they're not blood brothers, but you know, they're basically close enough to where, yeah, they're basically bros now. Normally, these two would be at each other's throats. I mean, let's keep it a stack. The Shirai Ryu and the Lin Kuei are basically the Bloods and Crips of the Mortal Kombat universe, but with superpowers. But this is actually a good change of pace, because I mean, if you're going to continue with the story of MK, then it doesn't really make sense to keep this whole rivalry thing between them going on, thinking things won't eventually get stale after a while. Especially when you take into account that in the last game, they seemed pretty damn cool with each other throughout pretty much most of the game, until past Scorpion came back, of course. But throughout MK11, they was fighting side by side, protecting each other from enemy attacks, but you know, still having their little slick little quips about each other to remind the audience that just because they're not really enemies no more, don't mean that they going soft though. That's some character development for your ass. Another interesting change lore-wise would be the Tarkatans. The recent trailers show Baraka explaining that he and his people's lives are basically at stake, but not because they're being attacked by an opposing army or anything like that, but because of a plague that's afflicting them known as Tarkat, and they refer to themselves as the victims of Tarkat. Bro, this shit is a whole ass disease now.
This is a sick Negro.
See, back in the original universe, and even in the reboot, the Tarkatans were basically a race of beings that, hell, you could even say that they were mutants, but basically they served as battle fodder for cats like Shao Kahn. If you're like an interdimensional warlord, the Tarkatans were basically the kind of soldiers that you'd want to have at your beck and call, because not only are they plentiful, but they're loyal and savagely brutal in battle. So you're definitely getting your money's worth if you're betting on Tarkatans. Now, the Tarkatans are a race that existed as a result of humans from Outworld and demons from Netherrealm, you know, doing a little bit of into smashing. And yeah, this basically shows that just because kids are mixed don't mean that they're gonna be pretty. However, it's possible that another side effect of these hybrid beings is them not being too bright as a species. Basically, these are not exactly the most difficult people to pull a whammy on. I mean, they make for good warriors, but intellectual wise, they're kind of slow. And this is kind of why they have to be led by someone like Shao Kahn so they don't forget how to breathe by accident. Baraka, though, is a totally different beast. Now, he's considerably smarter than other Tarkatans and even maintains a leader position among them. Not to mention he's nasty with the hands and the arm blades. But in this new era, the Tarkatans are just humans that contracted a disease.
Death is our only release.
Not gonna lie, I never thought I would see Baraka be portrayed as a sympathetic character, let alone feel bad for this motherfucker and other Tarkatans. This whole Tarkatans being the people that's afflicted with a disease is a much more interesting take on the characters, as opposed to what they tried to do in that MK Rebirth film that they made back in like the 2010s, where Baraka was basically a surgeon that ended up going insane and then turned into a serial killer, and then ended up filing his teeth into points and then surgically attaching metal blades into his arms and shit. I'm actually not sure what they were trying to do with that series as a whole. It's kind of like they were trying to do a more grounded and realistic take with the characters, but at the same time they kind of still wanted to keep at least just a little bit of the more fantastical elements of the Mortal Kombat world. I don't know, it was just weird. It was really weird. Now something else that's interesting is seeing the character Li Mei make her return. Now I've always wanted to see more characters from the original universe reappear in the reboot universe. Like I've said in my last Mortal Kombat video, some characters I would like to see make a return would be characters like Jarek, Reiko, Nitara, Kentaro, Motaro, Havoc, etc. Li Mei so far, at least I think, was the only character, or at least one of the lesser known characters from the original universe that made a comeback. But I could be wrong, there might be some others that came back that I didn't notice. But her appearance shows promise that other characters from the 3D universe would actually make a comeback. And that'll possibly be shown in another gameplay reveal trailer, or maybe even some DLC. Oh, speaking of which, did y'all see that Kombat Pack teaser? Did y'all see that shit, bro? Yo, when I saw the full lineup, I just kept getting hyped as each character showed up. I'm sure y'all probably saw those posts that claimed to be some kind of leaked info about characters like Omni-Man and Homelander and Peacemaker showing up. Now, of course, I thought it was fake at first, not because I didn't think it was possible for those characters to show up. I mean, come on, they done had Kratos, Terminator, Spawn, Joker, and a bunch of other cats show up. Really, I thought it was fake because I thought it was just, you know, some fan doing a bunch of wishful thinking and putting up some fake character models and shit. But then this joint drops and the hype just went off the charts, bro. Omni-Man, Ermac, Quan Chi, Peacemaker, Homelander. And then I saw on the far right another character who I thought looked familiar, and I'm like,
I know that ain't who I think it is.
I'm like, hold up, is that my boy Takeda? Takeda Takahashi? The son of Kenshi, bro. Yo, if I wasn't already convinced to cop this game before, I'm definitely convinced now. Usually I tend to hate next generation type characters because it's almost always the exact same way. These come off as being a bunch of arrogant little assholes that talk shit about the older generation of characters and basically end up trivializing all the shit that they went through as being not that big of a deal. Just running their mouth as if keeping the world from being conquered or destroyed by tyrants or keeping existence from collapsing in on itself is the same thing as putting out a small fire. That shit always irritated me, bro. So it always seems to be like that's the default for next generation characters. I mean, come on, son. If these are supposed to be the next line of heroes and all that, then I'm pretty sure you'd want the audience to like these new characters. Now, I wouldn't say that the Kombat kids are like that. I mean, I like Jackie Briggs' movesets, but I don't really care for her as a character. You know, Cassie was aight. I actually liked her character a lot more in MK11 than I did in MKX. I don't think anybody gives a shit about Kungjin. That dude was barely an afterthought. But Takeda is who I would say I rock with the most out of the group. In my opinion, that's how you do a next generation type of character. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was type disappointed when he didn't come back in MK11, but hey, Takeda's back now, and I'm excited to see what he's about this time. Though I am confused as to how the hell he's even around just yet. I mean, since they said that the Kombat kids aren't around during this time period, maybe they'll answer that in the game, or maybe he's just nothing more than a DC character and his appearance has no real consequences on the story. All in all, the hype for this game just continues to grow more and more with every teaser. But what are y'all thoughts? Let me know what y'all think and we can chop it up in the comment section. Peace.